Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Tears from Tutor Collegiate Strategies, and you're about to check out the latest episode of the Mission Admissions Podcast, a show that's designed to help higher ed become better recruiters, communicators, marketers, and managers. Each week, I'll introduce you to an industry leader or difference maker who will share helpful advice, tips, and strategies that will help you grow professionally and personally. Mission Admissions is part of the Enrollify podcast network and is made possible by Gecko, an engagement platform that makes it easy for your team to deliver a better student experience. I'm excited to share my latest candid conversation, so let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Tears, and this is episode 14 of the Mission Admissions podcast. We've got 2 episodes left in season 1, and I've decided to do a special 2-part series on mindset, mental skills, and mental toughness. All of those things are topics that I've been asked about a lot over the last 12 months at conferences and during the meetings and workshops that I have as part of the staff training workshops that I do. And I'm very fortunate to have 2 amazing guests who are going to join me, who are experts on all of those subjects. And the first one today is Lindsey Wilson. Lindsey is a former professional athlete who is now a well-known performance mindset coach, writer, and speaker who teaches athletes, teams, and organizations how to unlock their full potential through mental performance training. Her work has been featured in ESPN, HuffPost, and the New York Times. And a fun fact about Lindsey that I just learned was that in high school, she was featured in an Oscar-nominated documentary called The Heart of the Game. So welcome to the show, Lindsey.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Lindsey, why is mindset so important when it comes to our personal and professional growth?
Oh, that is a question that we could spend the entire podcast on, and I'm sure we will. I think so many of us, are really ill prepared for understanding how important and how critical our mindset is in our everyday reality. And we consciously want things to happen, right? We want to have a nice life. We want to make money. We want to have good relationships. Everybody wants good things in their life. And there's really this sort of invisible force behind all of that, which is our deep subconscious. And if we don't spend time working on that, then the reality that we live in doesn't actually shift that much, even though we're working really hard and trying really hard and wanting things. It's just really not enough to work hard and want things. You really have to work on this invisible driver.
And so why do you think a lot of people don't work or maybe don't spend as much time as they do in other areas on their mindset?
Well, I think there's 2 reasons. I think either they don't know about it. No one told them. It's not like I think schools are starting or parenting has changed a lot. People are trying to instill these ideas and emotional intelligence and all these things that are so critical really to lifelong happiness and success at a younger age. But some people don't get that memo for whatever reason. And I think the second thing is it's not so cut and dry what to do. Everybody understands and can see the results pretty quickly if they go to the gym and they start, doing squats. Your glutes are going to get stronger. Your hamstrings are going to get stronger. You're going to feel the difference. You're going to say, oh, it's because of these squats. The work on the mindset side is not so cut and dry. There's a lot of things you can do. And I think the confusion really allows people to just get overwhelmed and be like, well, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to do anything.
So when was the first time then, if you can remember back, when you just remember seeing this whole concept of, wow, look what mindset can do when I work on it for you?
Yeah, I really had sort of 3 very distinct experiences with mentors, and I remember each one specifically. I remember when I was 12 years old that I had a strength coach that would have us lie down at the end of practice or workouts and do like visualization imagery on recovery. And I remember that very distinctly. I was 12 years old and I was like, it's interesting, And he had been trained. He was an Olympian, former Olympian. He'd been trained by Bill Bowerman, who was really into this stuff, in the 70s. And then I had a mentor when I was 16, a coach and mentor that specifically started teaching me about positive affirmations and subconscious programming, and really how our belief systems and our thoughts about what we're capable of and what we're worthy of, how that influences our everyday reality. And in that case, our performance. I was a basketball player. I really wanted to play at the next level. And so I was very driven to do anything I could to improve that, ability. And so I remember that. And then when I was playing professionally, I started working with a hypnotist. And I remember the first time that he took me through a self-hypnosis, and I remember crying afterwards. And I remember thinking, this is what I've been missing. This is the deep work that, I'd done as basketball player. I'd done 1 million hours in the gym. Like, there was things I still could improve on the physical side, but that certainly was not the thing that was holding me back. So those were my 3 sort of, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and they certainly did for me in my life.
So what, because of course I'm curious, as I'm sure the audience is, what did the hypnotist really unlock then that day?
Well, I think, a lot of, I believe in the saying that change happens slowly and then all at once. And so a lot of times I think in my work and in the students that I certify other mindset coaches and in their work with their clients, there's like these aha moments, right? But I think almost more important than that is these moments when a coach or a mentor, or let's say a healer, if you want to use that word, teaches you maybe even something that you already knew, which is, in those cases, your brain is entirely powerful and it can do anything that you want it to do. And, you thought you were the problem, and it's true, but you're also the solution. I remember it's almost like it was less about what happened in that session and more about the awareness of like, oh my God, I can do this. This is what I needed. And I now have this awareness that I'm not my thoughts, that these things are fixable, that there's hope. And I think that's a big part of what I want my clients, or even my coaching certification students, to instill in their clients.
So is it the words then that are so powerful, Lindsey, not only with what that hypnotist did with you, but what you do right now with the people you partner with? Or what do you feel like the difference is?
Well, no. Anybody who's studied anything about leadership or parenting or coaching kind of knows there's definitely improvements you can do in words, and how you improve, and how you motivate people, and how you inspire them, and how you instill confidence in them. Those are great. And those things work to a degree. But when people have really deep-seated beliefs that are blocking them, you really need to go to another level. And that level is speaking to your subconscious with deep breathing and imagery work, and the use of metaphors and stories, and journaling and mindfulness. There's a lot of different tools that help us access that part of us, but it's not happening when we're just, going through our day and emptying the dishwasher and driving and working and doing our emails. When there's so much noise around, we're not really connecting with that deep part of ourselves that allows us to then make those changes from the inside out.
If someone then wants to improve their mindset, whether it's they're negative, they want to be more positive, whether it's they're like, okay, Lindsey, I like what you're saying, but like what you said a few minutes ago, I don't know where to start. So what am I supposed to do? Yeah. What are a couple of easy techniques? Is it the breathing? Is it the, lying down and doing visualization? Like, what have you found works really well for most of us?
That's a hard question because it really depends on the person. I think, any kind of breathing or meditation, I think guided is really important. Like guided visualization is really great. But for some people, that's a really big jump to where they feel like it's so hard for them and it's so uncomfortable and they feel so bad at it that it's really discouraging. But I do think that that's a really great option. Like anytime you are connecting with your breath and slowing down and sitting in that discomfort, I think especially with phones, it's really hard for people sometimes to just do nothing for a little while. So that space can be really a space for growth. I think journaling is a really good way to separate yourself from your thoughts. But there's also some cognitive behavioral techniques, which is recognizing that whatever thought we have, and you can do this, in your everyday life, like I said, emptying the dishwasher. If I'm emptying the dishwasher and I have a thought, I can understand how that thought is manifesting a result in my life in that moment. I can say, okay, well, I have a thought that a lot of people have a lot of big challenges with time, right? They think they can't get in, there's too much to do, they're overwhelmed. And so they have this thought, right? Maybe they're emptying the dishwasher, they're checking their email, and they're starting their day, and they say, what I'm thinking right now, and this is a really common one, is I have too much to do and not enough time, right? So we can take that thought and we can play out and understand how that deep thought, which we've now brought to our conscious mind, is playing out in our life. So we have this thought, I don't have enough time, basically. That thought leads to an emotion. And generally that emotion will be something like, I'm not motivated, or I'm overwhelmed, which leads us to take action, or leads us to not take action, which is also an action, right? I'm overwhelmed, so I don't know where to start. So I'm going to check Instagram, or I'm going to go grab another coffee, or I'm going to procrastinate, right? So that's going to lead to an action, which leads to the results of not getting anything done. So you've seen how that plays out, right? We have all done that on a Monday morning, and we spend the whole day thinking about how much time we don't have, and then the day's gone, and we still have not gotten anything done. We have all been there. Now, imagine you check that thought and you say, okay, that thought is not me. It's not truth. It's not an absolute fact. It is simply a thought. So let me try to shift that thought to something that's going to serve me better. So you could shift it to something like, I have just enough time to get done what's important to me. Now that thought generally leads to an emotion that is empowering, maybe decisive, maybe motivated, empowered, which leads you to actually getting something done. You know, you're like actually then getting stuff done, which leads to the result of having things done, which then reinforces our original thought that we can get things done because we're able to prioritize, we're able to decide what's important to us. And that's just a really simple example, but you can see how that simple awareness of what our thought is so important. We are not our thoughts. They are not fact. They feel like fact almost every single time. Almost every single thought you have throughout the day, you think it's a fact. So analyzing or just knowing that you're not your thoughts and then being able to have the awareness to shift them it's like a superpower. It can change your relationships. It can change your financial situation. It can change your job. It can change anything. Recognizing that you have that power is like, it's mind-blowing. It really shifts. It has the potential to shift everything. And it can be done in the simplest ways.
I don't think I've met a single higher ed professional that loved everything about their technology stack. Here's the honest truth. No CRM or SIS will be able to meet all of the needs of all of your team. And that's why I'm a huge fan of Gecko, a student engagement platform that offers customizable modules designed to complement your institution's CRM and SIS. Gecko offers plug-and-play modules that enable your team to deliver memorable student experiences at scale. Their chatbot and texting tools will empower your admissions team to engage with the highest quality prospects by serving as a front line of defense for prospects that have basic questions about the college admissions process. Gecko's event module makes it easy to create awesome online and in-person event experiences one time and then duplicate them throughout the year with just a couple of clicks. Their call center is also an industry leader. No more splitting call lists into a dozen Excel files, scrolling through data to find who you need to call next, or having to manually record who picked up and who didn't. Oh, and did I mention that everything integrates seamlessly into your CRM and SIS? Because it does. So if you're a Slate school, for example, you'll see all of that sweet interaction data in your student's timeline. If you want to level up how you engage with prospective students, but you don't want to disrupt your processes, rip out all your tech, or start a new CRM procurement process, you need to check Gecko out. You can learn more about their offerings at geckoengage.com/Enrollify. And be sure to tell them that Jeremy and the Enrollify team sent you their way. And I can speak to that just because I know one of the biggest unlocks for me was this concept of we're all going to be negative at different points in our life. It's human nature, right? But when you start to realize, okay, but what about all the positive things that happen daily, weekly in our lives? Why aren't we focused as much on those? Why are we focused more on the negative? And then you start to dig deep, and I had people help me do this when I was trying to figure out how do I get better with my mindset. And it's this unlock for me of like, are you just happy? Like, are you happy in your life? Do you enjoy life? Do you enjoy your job? Do you feel like you're making a difference? Do you connect with your why? All of these things. And when I realized, wait a sec, when I am happy, right? It doesn't mean I'm not stressed. Doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I don't know if, work-life balance stuff I'm thinking about, but it just, I feel like it makes me, with that mindset and that thought of being happy, a better dad, a better husband, a better friend, and it was somebody explained that to me, Lindsey, and I don't know why somebody explained it to me and it gave me that unlock, but ever since that day, for me, anytime I'm stressed, anytime I'm like exhausted from like a 17, 18-hour day because I'm traveling, I just think about the positive things and the gratitude for things I'm grateful for, and it's like a complete shift.
Well, yeah, and that's, I think, an example of like how simple these things can be. Everybody wants like these big, huge, and we teach a lot of different tools, but there's not that many that work, and you don't really need that many. You just need like a couple in your toolbox. And I think understanding how the brain really works, which is that negativity bias, right? Like our brain does not wake up in the morning and think, this is what I want to speak to a basketball team or any sports team. And I go, okay, you want to be the best basketball player you can be today, right? Your brain doesn't actually want that. Your brain wants you to survive. And the best way for you to survive is for today to look a lot like yesterday. Now, as a basketball player or as a driven person trying to do anything good in the world, you don't want to be the same as you were yesterday. That's the whole point of practice. That's the whole point of pushing yourself. But there's a part of your brain that is like, whoa, let's not get all crazy here. Let's stay safe. Let's keep things comfortable. Let's keep things status quo. And part of that is making sure you're scanning for danger, looking at the negative. That is how our brain operates. That's how it keeps us safe. And so there's a good side to that too. You can kind of say, thank you, brain, for keeping me safe. We're good. We don't have to see all the negative all the time. We can push ourselves. We can do risky things. I'm going to have food tonight, hopefully. For most people, they have shelter and they have food. Not everybody, of course, right? But for a lot of people that are trying to push themselves, we really have to get back. And that's where gratitude can come in of like, no, I'm safe. I'm warm. I'm okay. I can push myself and do these scary things that feel scary, but in fact, I'm okay. And my brain is not going to be necessarily supporting me in that in the beginning. I have to just override that.
And so if I'm hearing you right, if somebody's listening to this and they're letting negativity and frustration really affect their day to day because it's just there so much in their subconscious, is it literally just reiterating to yourself verbally or, imagining it in your brain? I don't know which one's more effective. There are things, right, that I have to be grateful for, or that I know have been working for me, or things that I've been having success of. And I just have to remind myself of those things, or am I off base and it's something else?
No, like I said, I think there's sort of like this little toolbox you can start building up, right? And some things are going to resonate more with other people or some people more than others. But I think things like gratitude are great. I think the visualization, the breathing, the meditation, all that stuff is helpful. I do think journaling is a nice way, whether that's a gratitude journal or just putting your thoughts down on paper, because it's a very physical way of separating yourself from your thoughts, that is actionable, obviously. So that can create that distance that is sometimes hard to do in your own brain, but there's something about writing it down that you're like, oh, it is. There it is. It's just a sentence, right? It's not me. So that can be really helpful. I think it's a lot like anything we do that is change, right? Like you start lifting or working out, it's hard at first. Your body does not want to get off the couch. It's better to be on the couch, and it's going to really hurt running that first mile. But I think it's those daily disciplines of being aware of your thoughts, recognizing that they are not you, and then subtly shifting them. I think sometimes it's also like, to stay with the working out metaphor, it's like you don't go from the couch to running a marathon, right? And so when you're talking about mindset work, if you've never done it before, you're not going to be positive. And frankly, being totally positive all the time is not the purpose. The purpose is to pay attention to what your thoughts are creating in your life. And if they're creating what you want them to create, cool. No need to change them, right? But if you want to shift them, you shift them slowly. You don't go from the couch to a marathon. You go from the couch to walking, to running a mile, to running a 5K, And so slowly giving, because if you go from, I'm just never going to be negative again, I'm just going to be positive all the time. There's also something called toxic positivity, right? Where you're just constantly trying to be positive and you're like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to lose your shit on somebody. Like, that is all okay. We want to be aware. That is number one, first thing.
So is it understanding, again, to your point, it's a balance and it just has to be the balance that works for you? Is that what you talk to a lot of people about when you're helping them with their mindset? There's
nothing wrong with having negative emotions. There's nothing wrong with having doubts. It's really about how our awareness about them and not layering on. So for example, like a great example is an athlete going into a game. The purpose of thought work is not so they don't feel nervous, right? The purpose of thought work is for them to say, okay, I'm feeling nervous. How can I shift that? Will that serve me, right? And is there a way for me to shift my thoughts to get the results that I want? So in that same example, one of the very simple things that we teach is, do you know what the difference is between being nervous and being excited? 0, right? The physical experience of being nervous and being excited is absolutely no different. How we interpret it is really, really important. So again, the layering. If an athlete feels nervous and says, I'm not supposed to feel nervous, only bad athletes or bad basketball players feel nervous, then we're not in a good mental state. If we feel nervous and say, that is my body getting ready to be excited to play, it's a very different experience, and it's all based on our perception, right? We're still going to have butterflies. We're still going to be whatever. There's no difference in that. We're just not adding this layer of interpretation that isn't serving us, right? It's because there's like a layer of like almost shame or blame, right? And so we can feel and we can experience everything, and we should as a human being. We're not trying to be happy all the time. We can feel sad. That's okay. That is a human experience. Nobody should be going through life without ever feeling sad. That's weird, right? And it's like, how are we aware of when we're in those situations? And do we have the tools to get us out?
What do you think then makes somebody mentally tough, Lindsey?
I do think that it's the ability to manage one's mind. Because, I talked about pregame and the interpretation of nerves versus excitement. We also teach things in game, the ability to deal with mistakes, the ability to fail. Those are that resilience, right? To be able to come to practice, you played, you coach, like the ability to come to practice after you miss a game-winning shot, right? Like that sucks. There's no amount of mental preparation that's going to make that not suck, right? Like there isn't. And so how do we have that mental toughness to not go down, like we call it the negative train of just like wallowing in self-pity and like, yeah, I'm going to be pissed and I'm going to be mad at myself and I'm going to feel all the feelings. And then I'm going to have the mental fortitude, which is mental strength, to say, we're going to keep going. We're going to go practice. And then we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And, this is a part of growth. And that's like shifting that thought to like, I'm a terrible basketball player, to this is a part of it. This is the ups and downs. And that's like a maturity thing. That's a mental toughness thing. But it really comes down to being able to shift your thoughts.
Hey everybody, Zach from Enrollify here. You know that feeling you get when your boss tells you to go find a new CRM? Or when you're tasked with finding a handful of digital agencies to respond to your RFP? It's exciting, but it's also a little overwhelming. Where do you start? How do you know what software or service provider is the best fit for your school's unique context? Well, that's why the Enrollify team built Chatter, a feedback platform built to help higher ed marketing and admissions teams find the software, services, and resources that they need for success. Chatter is your one-stop shop for reviews on CRMs, student information systems, application software, marketing agencies, online program managers, branding agencies, higher education associations, professional development resources, and much, much more. Our goal is to equip you with the information that you need to make the right purchasing decision for your team. Get started by reading reviews and writing one of your own, and then invite your colleagues to do the same. Click the link in the show notes below or head on over to enrollify.org/chatter. Chatter. It's where great decisions start.
So how much of being mentally tough then do you think ties in with self-awareness and accountability? To your point, right? You make a mistake, you have a crappy game, you go, if you're listening to this, to a college fair or high school visit, and you're talking with a student, you're like, that sucked, that was not what I was hoping, but I gotta go do another one in 30 minutes from now. Is it trying to figure out, okay, I didn't do a good job preparing, I was unprepared, that's what I have to change? Or, so again, self-awareness, you tell me, is that something that plays in that example?
Yes, but I would also add in, I think one of the biggest barriers to growth is like the emotions that we put into it, right? So for example, if you do miss that game-winning shot, or you screw up that interview or whatever, so many of us are so hard on ourselves that we cannot allow ourselves to look objectively at what went well and what went wrong. I was just doing a podcast about this on my podcast about, like, I used to hate watching game film because I was so hard on myself that I was just like, I don't even want to see it, you know, and I would make myself, because I had a coach that I trusted and she took me through stuff, but like I hated it. And like, that is not, if we really want to get to a high level, we have to be able to look at ourselves, like ego aside, and be like, this went well, this didn't go well. We teach our athletes something called critiquing versus criticizing. The ability to critique yourself as if you're coaching yourself unemotionally and just say, hey, yeah, this went well, I wasn't prepared, this didn't go well because of this. Then we're talking about improvement. If we're just feeling bad for no reason, just because we don't want to look at things and we're just head in the sand, then we're not improving. And most people do the latter, right? They just criticize themselves and feel sad or mad or whatever, and they don't take the time to step back and, like, ego aside, look at what could have gone better, and also celebrate what went well.
How much self-reflection do you do? Is that something, you do daily, weekly? I mean, do you do a lot of self-reflection?
Certainly, like, so for my business, like, we'll have like debriefs on things. I used to do that after I would do presentations a lot. And, because you think you're going to remember, and it's like, you got to be able to grow, you got to write down. I think for me, as I've gotten older and done, my business, I am able to step back a little bit more. And it's almost like more of like a curiosity. I'm still hard on myself if something doesn't go wrong, right. Or, if someone wants to leave a program or something like that, like I feel my ego coming into it. And I think I'm not always good at putting that aside, but I feel like I'm more aware that it's happening. Because it feels very, self-indulgent almost to be like, I'm just going to feel bad about this. Right. And sometimes you can do that as long as you don't stay there for too long.
Well, that's the key, I think, to your point. You don't stay there too long, right? And there are a lot of people who I talk with in the work that I do that they just refuse. It's almost like they can't see a light at the end of the tunnel or a different way of thinking about things. And, to your point, I think it's just getting them to understand, again, I tell people all the time, you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. But again, are you learning, okay, why am I making mistakes? Is it because I don't have the right habits? Is it because I wasn't prepared? Is it because I'm already psyching myself out before I even go do what I'm going to do that this isn't going to work? Oh my God, it didn't work last time. There's no way it's going to work this time. And so I think just trying to figure those things out, hopefully, will be helpful to people listening. How do you overcome, you talked about fear of failure earlier. I mean, thoughts on how you help somebody overcome fear of failure, Lindsey? What helps you say, all right, I'm going to screw stuff up, but like it's okay, and here's why it's okay?
Well, I think a couple things. I think surrounding yourself by people that are also taking risks and normalizing failure, I think is really, really important. Talking about it. And then, like I said, bringing that lightness to it. So in many cases, I talk about curiosity or even humor. because so often, like, the vulnerability of talking about failure is something people want to avoid. And so the more we talk about it, the more we normalize that there are for sure going to be failures on the way to any type of success. I mean, people know that consciously. Again, we're talking about the subconscious though. And like, we want to avoid it so much. So we have to keep reiterating to our brain that this is a part of it. And so I think bringing that curiosity is really, really important. Thinking and talking about it a lot is really, really important with the people you love, the people that you're surrounded with. And then I think making sure that you have that support and a plan for when it does happen, because there's no way that you're going to get to where you want to get. Being clear about where you want to get to, that you're going to get there without falling on your face. And so if you can get that into your mind, it makes it sort of like one of my mindset coaches used to say, you know, if I miss shots in a game, he'd say, and again, this is how we're going to be interpreting, right? If I'm going to be missing these shots, one thought could be, I'm the worst basketball player in the world. I just went 0 for 10, right? Doesn't really serve me to think that way, right? But that's kind of a natural, and it feels true, right? When we're talking about our thoughts, that feels true. That feels like a fact. Just like I don't have any time feels like a fact. But I can also tell myself and have the discipline to tell myself something like, I only have so many shots. I only have so many missed shots in me. That thought allows me to deal with that failure in that moment and gives me that lightness and relief to be able to continue, trying my best, basically. And so little shifts like that of, again, paying attention to our thoughts and our interpretation of failure, instead of I'm the worst whatever in the world, it's this is on the path to getting to where I want to go. This is part of it. So that interpretation is really, really important.
Lindsey, the last two things that we've been doing on every podcast are a signature question and fun rapid fire. So I'd like to know what one important piece of advice is that somebody's given you at some point in your life that has really stuck to this day.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot.
What's the first thing that came to mind?
Common sense is not so common. My grandmother said that. And I think that's true. But I also think of that like, sometimes we make things like more complicated and more like crazy than they need to be, like coming back to the basics, coming back to like your core values and things that are like true to you, I think is always worthwhile.
Fun rapid fire. I'm going to give you a bunch of things, and I just want you to give me some quick thoughts as soon as I finish with each one of them, okay?
Okay.
You're starting a team today. Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird?
Oh, probably. Oh, that's a really tough one. But because I'm a point guard, I'd probably say Diana Taurasi.
Hardest thing about being a professional athlete?
I think the psychological level that you have to stay at is something that most people don't understand.
What's your favorite thing to do there in Seattle where you live?
Hang out with my kids.
Funniest or funnest, I'll let you take it either way, interview you've done on your Mindset Coach Academy podcast?
Depends what you mean by fun. I just did one that was really hard, but I'm going to go with that one because that's one sticking out of my mind. Yeah, we talked about regret. And that was, I disclosed a lot of personal stuff, and I went through this process but it was so, I guess fun. It was fun/rewarding. Also really hard.
And yeah. What's the best mom advice you got?
Oh, try to get some sleep. It's hard. Oh, I got a better one because this is even harder. Is put your marriage first if you're married. Everybody says that, and it is so hard to do. And when my husband and I do, we're better for our kids. So we have to relearn this lesson over and over again because they're always pulling at us. But we get our date nights in, and we do therapy, and we spend time together, and that's really, really important. And it's so hard to fit it in, but we do it.
Well, be intentional with it, right? As somebody
Exactly.
who has been married 23 years, I only have one, and she's 13 years old. But to that point, my wife and I find time every single month to do something, even if it's something small with each other, because to your point, it's super important. Yep. Lindsey, if people want to learn more, check out your podcast, just learn more about the trainings, the certifications, and things you do, where's the best place to go and either check that out or social media? Where can they follow you? Any of that stuff?
My podcast is the Mindset Coach Academy. So that's great for athletes and coaches and high performers. And I do great interviews, and we do a mental Monday. So we talk a lot about, little tips and tricks that you can implement in your life from a mindset standpoint. My company is Positive Performance Training, and that's positiveperformancetraining.com. And then on Instagram, I am at Lindsey Positive Perform.
Well, I appreciate you being on and sharing that with us, and we'll link that stuff in the podcast. A reminder that part 2 of my special 2-part series on mindset, mental skills, and mental toughness will be released in a couple of weeks from now on December 6th. So I hope to see many of you back here then. Thanks for your time, Lindsey.
Thank you.
Hey, all, Zach here from Enrollify. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mission Admissions with Jaime Tears. If you like this episode, do us a huge favor and hit that follow and subscribe button below. Furthermore, if you've got just 2 minutes to spare, we would greatly appreciate you leaving a rating and a review of this show on Apple Podcasts. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, admissions, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks that are all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. But Enrollify is far more than just a podcast network. Enrollify is where higher ed comes to learn new marketing skills, discover new products and services, and find their next job. We're a growing learning community of 4,000 members, and we'd love to welcome you into the fold. You can access our free blog articles, newsletters, e-courses, and more, or purchase our master course on how to market a university with Terry Flannery at enrollify.org. We look forward to meeting you soon and welcoming you into the community. Again, you can subscribe for free at enrollify.org.